Good evening, everyone. Vinay this side. I am the co-admin of this platform. We apologize. It seems like Jagdish network got disconnected, maybe because of some technical issue. So we hope he will
I'm
soon get
back.
the backup support and resume the session right away. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining.
Vinay, can you hear me? I think I'm back. I know my network is not good. I'm somewhere sitting in the outskirts of Haldwani in Uttarakhand. It's in the middle of a village, and the forests start right after our village. So connectivity is an issue, even though I do Google and geo connection. But maybe let's get started here. Um, I hope I hope you are able to hear me. At least I'm trying to get another dongle. Maybe let's see whether that works better. So um, my apologies for the disruptions that we seem to be having here. But yes, welcome to this part 5 edition of AMA. Uh, yeah, Vinay, just give me. Vinay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, guys, sorry for the connectivity disruptions. My daughter's, just trying to do some crisis management here. My daughter is trying to do some crisis management here to get us going. Maybe try and. This is the 44th episode of ClarITea Chat, and thanks for encouragement and engagement from all over the world. And I'm doing this even though this guest dropped out. He had a health alert, and we agreed that health is priority, and therefore
Meanwhile, we'll see that some few audiences have joined us, and as I'm seeing, we already got tons of comments from our audiences. Let me check if we have received some questions. Uh, Let me see whosoever has joined. Uh, yeah, Mr. Pankaj Srivastava has joined us. Hello, sir. How are you? Thanks for joining us. Uh, Anil sir has also joined. Hello sir, thanks for joining us, and have thanks for having a patience also. Jagdish sir, I think he has joined yet again.
Yeah, I just tried changing my hotspot, and hopefully this works better. But sorry for bearing with me, guys. Um, let's hope that we get this connectivity part right. Of course, I just reached here about half an hour back, so I didn't really get much of a chance to test the connectivity. I took Geo for granted, and I think maybe that was not a good decision. So right now I'm on the Vodafone hotspot. Let's hope it works well. Okay, so let's come back. So this is the 44th episode of ClarITea Chat, and thank you all for your encouragement, engagement, and ton of comments and appreciations, which come from all over the world. Now, this week's guest had a health alert, and we agreed that health is the first priority. And well, as we do every time, uh, something like this happens when a guest opts out. I take the opportunity to talk directly to all of you and have any kind of open discussion on topics that you choose. And that's the fun part of it, which comes unexpectedly. This Ask Me Anything session, um, it will be open for you to come live with me. Um, do you have a case study to share? Do you have any value add from ClarITea Chat that has given you any kind of aha moments? Send us a comment mentioning your intent to come live on chat for a discussion. Um, and my team will send you a private message, um, with the studio link. Now, as we always do in this Ask Me Anything session, so we do have some backlog of past questions related to CIO role, the fear of failure, Industry 4.0 to 5.0. I did a quick read on that just to understand what that means, and many other questions. We'll take a shot at it. As always, you will be getting some honest answers, some case studies, or some practical approaches. And maybe, if nothing in my experience yet, I'll at least give you a thought process. So before I go forward, let me request everyone to, all our audience, to share where you are joining from, your name and where you are joining from. And I have lost a few of you. I saw the comments coming in and I got disconnected. The comments get wiped out. Well, like we people in IT are used to doing, I have already raised a support request with the StreamYard saying that why should we lose the comments? And well, they haven't solved it yet, but they have been nice enough to acknowledge the problem. So for now, we have Pankaj Srivastav here. Hey, Pankaj. Thanks for joining and thanks for bearing with me. I know you're one of the first to comment. I saw your comment and then I had a few disruptions, but you're still here. Thank you. Thank you, Anil. And being very generous and kind, that going good so far. Well, the starting was like, we had a cold start problem, as they call it. But I hope to streamline it. And yeah, my daughter is my tech support, so she is like trying to make it work on her dongle parallelly. But for now, yes, touch wood, it's doing good. Pramod Sonmale from Pune. Hey Pramod, thanks for joining and thanks for the discussion we had on one of my posts earlier, and thanks for your insights. Uh, Anil is from Mumbai, and we have Dattatray from Muscat, Oman. Hey, Dattatray, you've been very regular on ClarITea Chats, so thanks for your support and for your participation here. And we have my friend Andy from Baroda. Hey, Andy, good to meet you here. I know we couldn't meet in Baroda, during my multiple visits there. And well, we still have some comments flowing in. So we have Sunil Punjabi from Mumbai. Hey Sunil, I hope you're keeping well. Take care, buddy. And thanks for joining. And we have Gypsum George here. Okay. So, guys, please keep your questions coming. And as I said, if you want to share something, I see some old colleagues here. If any one of you have anything to share, maybe a mutual experience itself, please feel free to comment and then join the studio with me. It's a fun part. I haven't seen too many people do it. Get someone just like that on the studio in an unprepared manner. But then ClarITea Chat is all about just being real. No facades. No no nothing artificial. Just honest chats, and I don't mind having an honest chat on live video with you guys. Okay. Okay, so let's start now. So we had one question from Siddharth Nikra, who was head of sales of India, who's head of sales of India business at Quality Kiosk Technologies. And his question was how CIO role has changed in the past few years from an enabler to innovator. Okay. I think most of us who are managing IT in our role as CIOs or CDOs or IT managers, I know we keep getting you can say frustrated or worked up, given that there are so many of operational challenges out there. So many technologies, whether it's hardware, software, and you have to keep the lights on. As long as it runs, no one appreciates you. But when anything goes down, all hell breaks loose, and we become the villain. Now, I think with that kind of a backdrop, to aspire to become an innovator, okay, and to is a natural question. How do you become an innovator from an enabler? Okay, so so, and I think I had the same issue when I joined as a CIO. I was bogged down by operational issues. I was bogged down by SAP problems. The first major event after I took over as CIO was the half year end, which was September of 2009. And at 9 p.m., there is this red flag which comes from everywhere that SAP is not working, and the invoices are not being generated, etc., etc. And then I had to really roll up my sleeves, go to the basis operations room, and fire up some instructions, including many which will which will not make our users happy, but they need to be done to keep the system on. Like for example, killing long and big reports that people were firing at 9 o'clock on 30th September. So of course, you have to cover it up with communication. But I think that was a good lesson for me as I was struggling with these operational issues, and I always wanted to be an innovator. So I took over as a CIO, after doing quite a bit of innovation on the CRM side, which was full of innovations. And here I come and I take over an operation. And I think everyone wants to move from operations to innovation, not the other way around. And here I was. So I had to really go back to the drawing board, and let me tell you some of my learnings and experiences. See, it took me a couple of years to really streamline everything. And the first learning in operations was processes, right? Processes and clarity of roles. That means you need to have a structure and a set of processes, which everyone should be clear about who handles what, okay? And you need to give the autonomy to the team. Okay? The second learning was that you cannot outsource everything, because even as you outsource things, people are looking for decisions. Any operation or any function out there, you have to take decisions day in and day out. Now we were very understaffed on the IT side, and most of our resources were on the on the outsourcing side. So we brought in this concept of like accountability inside, and created a structure which which had the decision making residing inside the organization. So you have processes, then you bring accountability inside, which is like all the decisions being taken. There is enough decision bandwidth within the team to be able to manage the providers. And then the third most important thing is to set up a process of continuous improvement. That means, and that comes only when you have data driven operations. So any of my reviews, I would always focus on data. Like, for example, tickets. Okay, what is the trend in tickets? What is the distribution of tickets? Okay, which areas tickets have increased in the last month? Which areas tickets have decreased in the last month? Wherever it has decreased, what have we done to decrease those tickets? Now, as you keep doing it, and the whole thing gets streamlined, the processes get streamlined, and you're on a path of continuous improvement, I think that starts freeing up your bandwidth for innovation. So maybe I should have said it right in the beginning, but let me say it now. What is the biggest roadblock to moving from let's say enabler to innovator? Okay, and that is the availability of time. If all of your time is consumed by operations, how will you ever do innovation? So the first priority has to be to free up your time, and that means things should run like clockwork. Okay, and less and less things should come to you. Your time gets freed up, and then you start innovating. Okay. So think about it. Are you adopting the ITIL V3 processes? Do you have so the right L1, L2, L3 mechanism? Do you have clear roles and responsibilities within your team? And I think one very important criteria I would leave with you for considering is how many times you get involved in managing a fire. Are these happening on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, or they happen once in a quarter or so? I was able to take the crisis, frequency from something like on a daily basis or a weekly basis to maybe once in 3 months, once in 6 months. Okay, which is where I really have to roll up my sleeves. Okay. Now coming to the second part of it, which is what everyone will tell you. I told you things that other people will not tell you because the focus will be more on technologies. Now, on the technology side, okay, earlier, I remember almost 2004-5, which is almost about 17, 18 years earlier, when we wanted to implement something, we started with a bomb. Okay, this server, this database, this license, etc., and that whole thing will go for a capex approval, and then only you can start something. And then I have seen this change over to a sort of on-demand model where you have cloud. Okay, so you have cloud where you can take capacity on demand, and on the cloud, if you really go deeper into it, there's like so many of tools and services which are available to you, that for you to stitch together an application, experiment with it, and do a test drive with your users has become so easy, which was not so much back then. But sometimes our mindsets are remain there itself, which is that if I have to do something, I first need to do a plan, I need to do a bomb, I need to go for some approvals and all of that. And I think that's something that you can short circuit by doing some experiments on the fly, test driving it with your users, and then moving really fast. The other change which has happened, which allows you to become an innovator, is the number of startups which are there to help you in experimenting. So again, you want to anything that you want to do, as long as you are able to create a good mechanism to engage the startups, They are very, very, fast, very innovative, and they will be able to put together things for you very quickly. And last but not the least, I would say it's the mindset. Okay, I think innovator is always a mindset. If you think like a paper pusher, that okay, I need to get things done, or what comes to my desk needs to get out within a certain amount of time, and that's what I need to do. I need to just keep everything on, um, and not really take any risk. Okay, um, I think that's one mindset that needs to change. For being an innovator, one of the biggest mindset shifts that you require is to be a risk taker. Okay. Um, I just sort of wrote a small sort of tweet style post, and it might come to you in the next few days. Is that move from a permission based decision making. That means when you want to take a decision, you're asking for a permission. Don't do that. Okay. Move to an apology based decision making. That means you take a decision, okay, and if it doesn't work out, okay, apologize for it. It's always easier, and it has always helped me, because with my innovators mindset, that I'll take decisions. If they don't pan out, I'll say sorry and move on. Now, the only thing that you have to take care here is that don't bring the house down. That means don't take big decisions, okay, um, which do require that amount of due diligence. But for whatever we are talking about in terms of moving from enabler to innovation, it requires a lot of experimentation, requires lots of trying out new things, and you don't need permissions for those. I mean, if something doesn't go right, just apologize, and that's it. At least people will appreciate that you tried something new. Okay. Okay, so that was a backlog question. Now let me come back to the audience. This is your session today, so please ask as many questions as you want. Pankaj, you asked, should I post my questions here? Yes, you can post your questions here, and if you want to come online with me on video, let my team know. Just put a comment, and my team will send you the link. Okay. Okay. So next question is from Pramod. So Pramod says, how do you see big data platform need and necessity in future digital journey? Do you think CIOs leveraging fullest or still selective? Mm. So Pramod, let's see again, when we are looking at any of these concepts, I typically tend to go back to the genesis of it. Okay, so where did it come from? Where did big data come from? What was it like 5 years back? What was it 10 years back? And I think somewhere your answers lie in the history of how it has evolved. So let's understand how it evolved. Okay, so you had these ERPs, which would generate a huge amount of data, and then people would try to drive all their reports from there. The reports will be very basic, but these reports will put so much of a query load on your systems that transactions would go slow, and therefore like there was a need to differentiate between the OLTP systems, or online transaction processing systems, and OLAP, the online analytical processing systems. So every system would have this OLTP and OLAP delineation, where you will push data from OLTP to OLAP, and then there you would then use visualization tools. You would do denormalization of data, and you would really create large tables with many columns to drive faster query. Okay. Now the next evolution was that I mean, people figured out that what I mean, we have to have multiple systems. Now that's a reality. And now every system having its own, like OLTP, OLAP, OLTP, OLAP, how long can it go? And how do you really make these OLAP systems talk to each other? Because enterprise reporting cannot happen unless these OLAP systems talk to each other. In our case also, like, we had a CRM OLAP, which was like an OBI, and we had a SAP BI, and these were like, serving the respective users, whether in uh, plant or finance or in sales or service. But the holy grail was still um, elusive, which is, can you drive enterprise wide reporting? Can you drive HQ level reporting? And I think that's when, like, the technology also evolved, and you had cloud coming in, and you had this big data platform where you could actually build enterprise wide data models. You could push data from your OLAPs, multiple of your enterprise data marts or OLAPs, into the data lake, and you could connect all of these together. Okay, and then what also happens is that with that kind of data, you can have analysts, who will work on that data and who will drive some real, I would say, statistical data mining, as well as, like, you can also do a consumerization of data where you can actually give those sort of, like, ingrained data marts to people, and let people play around data with data on their own. So that was like a data democratization kind of movement. Okay, now, why am I giving you such a long answer? Is you have to really see, where are you on this journey? Okay, so do you have mature OLAPs within your enterprise, which are like serving your different pockets of users, and now you see a need for enterprise-wide reporting, for which you need the data lake or the big data platform, right? So is that so you have to again go back to, what's the purpose you are looking at here? Okay. Now, so that was like, big data. I sort of told you about the data lake, but of course the data lake also has a big data element of it. Now, big data typically, is required when you have, a huge amount of data being generated. Like, for example, machine data, right? So machine data, you have IoT data coming in hordes and hordes. I remember when we launched telematics in, I think, 2 or 3 years, our data size was bigger than, what our ERP was in 15 years. Okay, so you have explosive amount of data coming in. Or if you're in a consumer goods company, then there's a lot of consumer data that is coming in. There's a lot of social media data that is coming in. So it is really contextual. So what is the message here? The message is twofold. One is that you look at where in your journey, in your analytics journey you are, uh, and then take that incremental step, instead of thinking about any buzzwords that get thrown to you, whether it is big data or data lake. The second point is that you have to look at big data from your organization context point of view. Where is this massive amount of data which is being generated, which is like sort of new in nature, right? So anything traditional you would have taken care of. And where is it that you require those techniques? But I think beyond all this, the one message that I keep hearing in ClarITea Chat from my guests, okay, is focus on the purpose. Don't go by the buzzword. Focus on purpose. What is it that you want to do? What is the business problem you want to solve? What is the one big difference it will make to your organization's top line or bottom line? And then work backwards. And if that means you require a big data platform, go for it. Um, Now, your second part of the question: do you think CIOs leveraging fullest or still selective? I would say if somebody is doing it for the sake of it, you know, you won't be able to leverage it because it will be an uphill task for you to justify. But I think if you have business problems to solve, then you would definitely leverage it. Okay, so Pramod, tell me if if this entire thought process results in some other questions, or you want to ask a follow-up question, I will be able to cover it. Now let me go to Pankaj Srivastav. He's asking, what are the parameters as a CIO should report to management on a regular basis? Okay. Yeah. So team, Vinay, please send Pankaj a link. He wants to come online. Pankaj, it is a really good topic, so um, we can discuss it. So let me go on to some other question. Okay. Vijay. Okay. So Vijay, your thoughts on impact of Web3 DeFi technologies for CIOs and IT teams? Frankly, Vijay, I have not been able to form a view. This is a question which is being asked to me maybe a third time. I've been reading about it a little bit. I'm part of a big elite group out there on cryptos. Um, I'm not really able to make up my mind in terms of how can we use it, because see, uh, the underlying thought process across all of these is more like a federated system. Now as enterprises, we have been programmed to think top down, think enterprise. Okay, but I think all these Web3, DeFi, or blockchain, all these technologies are decentralized technologies. Okay, now I think, as is happening, as you can see in the consumer world, there may be a lot of value to this in terms of sort of decentralizing the controls, making it more federated, I may say, more federated, more rules driven, more multi-party driven. Of course, it brings in its own set of risks, which we keep reading about in terms of all the sort of he's that happen out there. But from a CIO and IT team's point of view, I I don't really, I'm not really able to make up my mind. I'm like, I keep stretching my head as to where as a CIO I can use it. Now there are a few areas which I have seen in my life, where uh, blockchain as such can be used. Like for example, in supply chain. So in supply chain traceability, blockchain get used. Blockchain can get used in downstream, supply chain. I see some usage of it. Like for example, I discussed it with somebody in the banking industry, and he was very enthusiastic about it. Of course, I didn't want to make a business out of it, and neither did he. So this idea somewhere probably sank, or we don't know whether somebody is working on it. It was about actually vehicle finance. Okay, so here is what happens. The OEM sells a vehicle to the dealer. There is a channel finance which gets involved. That means this purchase as a working capital finance is financed by a financier. Then this vehicle gets sold to a customer, and this customer then has another financier. And now what should happen ideally is that um, there was a working capital finance involved in selling this vehicle from OEM to dealer. Now, as soon as dealer sells this vehicle to end customer, whatever money is realized should go back in paying back this working capital loan. It doesn't happen every time like that, and that's when you have siphoning of money, etc., etc. Now, something similar happens in so many other cases. Like for example, you raise equity from the stock market, and then where do you use that money? Who do you pay it with? So there are lots of, I would say, misuses in the chain that happen, you know, uh, which can be addressed with blockchain technologies, with the traceability that it brings, etc. But uh, now, even as a CIO, when we want to use it for supply chain or finance, I think it requires a bit of collaboration, which I haven't really seen much happening. But Vijay, if you have any ideas or if you have any case studies where you see Web3 or DeFi technologies, being used in an enterprise context, do send us a comment, and I would again be happy to bring you in the studio, and this time I will pick your brains on how do you think about it. Okay, so continuing the discussion, so Vijay, you make up your mind whether you want to be grilled by me on this coming here. Meanwhile, I will pick up this one from Shankar, who says the supply chain traceability part is handled by serialization as part of track and trace. Yes, Shankar, but you can't do it for everything. Okay, um, there are many use cases which you try to handle it through a traditional ERP kind of method. It will break apart somewhere, especially when there's a handoff between systems. So let me take this example, Shankar. So let's say a supplier sends you an engine, or let's say a gearbox, okay, and you fit it into your vehicle, and then this vehicle goes to your dealer. All of this is happening in your ERP, and when dealer sells it to the customer, it basically moves towards your CRM or a dealer management system kind of system, right? And I think that's where somewhere this need for synchronization across these systems arises. Okay, so then let us say it moves. Now there is a warranty issue on this vehicle. Okay, for this particular aggregate, you will need to synchronize between these systems if to basically do the tracking tracing. But imagine if there is let's say if all your vehicle and aggregates data is taken to a blockchain based this thing, and all these systems are writing to it. Let's say the ERP, your supplier management system writes to it, your ERP writes to it, your CRM writes to it, and then later on when it comes to let's say a warranty settlement, or let's say a reliability issue 5 years down the line when you want to track, you should be able to see everything, which what has happened on that particular aggregate. So yes, to an extent, track and trace, serialization and track and trace gives you some visibility, but that will be a very limited visibility. But blockchain can give you much richer data. It can give you data over a longer period of time. And let's say let me make this situation more complex. Now let's say this aggregate, okay, this fails, and now you exchange it in with a recon aggregate. This aggregate comes back to your recon station. Things happen on it, and it goes back. And while this guy takes another aggregate and goes. Now this aggregate gets fitted in some other vehicle. So again, I mean, if you really think of which all systems this aggregate is being handled in, because you will have a separate system for reconditioning. Okay, you start seeing the multiple touch points and the multiple failure points in getting a data picture of this entire thing. And I think those are the areas, but uh, let's see something happening there. Let's see somebody work on it, because we can only learn when somebody experiments with it and when somebody tries it out. Okay, so I have Pankaj Srivastav here with me. Pankaj, I hope you are settled into a room. I know you are moving around. If you are, then let me add you to this. Hey, hi Pankaj.
Hi, Jagdish, and hi everyone. Can you hear me and see me properly?
Perfect.
Great.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you so much.
so thanks Pankaj for daring to send a message to come on come on the chat. It does take a bit of heart to come live and talk to a large audience. But thanks for doing that, and good to meet you after a long time.
Yes, and good to talk to you after a very long time, and it has been I have been actually listening to your recorded messages and or your videos on ClarITea Chat, but never was able to see it live. But this time, suddenly I was free from my cricketing commitments,
Oh,
so I could join.
awesome, awesome. So are you cricketing with your son
He, though
or with your team?
there's a group which we have formed, and that group keeps playing around every weekend, and
Yeah.
we do go to places to play. But yes, it's something we have recently started.
Oh, awesome.
Mr.
Hey, Pankaj, why don't you give a small, maybe 2 minute intro of yours for people to understand where you're coming from in terms of the question.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much. Probably maybe intro of myself, Pankaj Srivastav. I have worked with multiple companies, including Tata Motors, and directly with Jagdish, and he was instrumental in making a lot of, uh, I would say, career-wide changes to me, and I am happy with that, and I'm grateful for that. I currently work with Nayara Energy, which is an oil and gas manufacturing company, for last 4 years, and looking at mostly IT strategy, governance, and most of the digital initiatives which happen there. So that's where one of the major uh, discussions which I have been having with management and with senior folks in business about how IT should report and what IT should report to management on a very clear timelines, or I would say regular basis, what should be the reporting. So typically I see CIO and his or her team reporting about operations, reporting about projects, reporting about technology, but somehow business is always asking for something extra, which should be there in the report, and that's what I thought. Let us have a discussion on that, and let's see if we can find something. I remember, Jagdish, we used to create that monthly dashboard, and that question is still unresolved for me.
I know. See, why I asked you to come online because I was like, yeah, Pankaj used to create those monthly CIO dashboards, which used to go through all the senior leaders, and maybe things have changed. So let me understand how things have changed. So, but um, but yeah, the things have changed quite a lot, Pankaj, and I'm sure you are seeing it, more than I do. So, Pankaj, I mean, let's just look back at some of our experiences and tell me what has changed there. Okay, so the first one is like which for me is the business value realization. All these IT programs or technology programs which have been sponsored by these people and multiple ROI cases were made, approvals were given. I think the first part of trust on IT should come from reporting back on how have these programs added value to the company. So the business value realization, and more importantly, from a point of view of what is it that still needs to be done to realize the value. Is it like do people still have process workarounds? I mean, is there like some additional investment needed, or is everyone using whoever is supposed to use or not? Right. So it is more so about the business people adopting it and having a healthy discussion on why they are not if they are not. Right. So, what do you think about business value realization, and what is the challenge there?
Yeah, I believe yes, business value realization is something which they look for. And actually, one of my experiences recently, I would say, is I was in a review with some of the senior CXOs in the organization. Well, while they, one comment which remained with me was they see IT as an integrator, of various departments, various functions within the business, and they feel that IT has I would say a role or a typical I would say responsibility to ensure that things are integrated between different business functions, and that is where a business value realization after the project is complete and after it has been deployed, they expect IT to go and bring that out rather than business. So that is something which I felt that it was quite something which should be added. While always typically IT would say BVR or business value realization should come from business and they should take the responsibility. But I now have started feeling that it is also IT's responsibility to get into that and showcase that to CXOs so that they understand. Because typically IT would have I have a larger view of everything in every function, and they are at the best position or the place to uh, give any
Absolutely.
comments.
Absolutely. No, I fully agree with you, Pankaj. So on one hand, I would put it as business value realization, and again, it's an integration across multiple functions. So my favorite case study here is, that spare parts planning system, which I covered in previous ClarITea Chat. That we did this implementation, and everything was hunky dory, and it was touted as a success. But when we looked at the KPIs, it wasn't looking good. And then when we started root causing as to why, and then we figured out that those two planners that HR was supposed to approve, they were stuck in the bureaucracy, and therefore this a multi-million implementation was not giving the value. And once we closed that, the business value was realized. But I think on the other end, so this was actually probably a fight going on between service and HR. But it was as IT, when we looked at the business value realization, we called it out. I think that put pressure on both of them to resolve it and move on, and focus on the on the KPIs. So it's our job to, of course, bring back the discussion to KPIs rather than the other things. So on the completely the other hand, Pankaj, um, I have also seen a expectation. It may not be very explicit or obvious, is that IT generally knows what are the risks. Okay, so whether it's related to processes or whether it's related to, let's say, business continuity, etc., etc. So in my view, I think one of the things that IT reports should have is the enterprise risks or the technology risks that we are carrying. It may be cybersecurity risks. It may also be, let's say, either business continuity or any kind of other risks. The the one more reason for putting this out there is that there are many technology investments you cannot justify just based on ROI. But if you show a picture of risk, that this is if we don't invest in this technology, this is a risk we are carrying, and then you publish it as a report, and everybody who gets a report sort of gets into the news, right? And that's when a discussion starts on investing for risk reduction. What do you think about that?
I agree. I agree also in terms of information security and digital resilience, which is something which is now also coming to picture with a lot of companies having critical assets out there in digital world. Earlier, things were things were not or not that much exposed, but today the benefits of exposing things to internet are immense, and that's where people are going outside, and that's where securing those becomes important, and that's where I think businesses also are looking at securing them, and IT as an assurance function is also gaining importance now. When we say assurance, like IT also has to give an assurance that this is safe and this is good enough to be in exposed manner, and that is where I think all the things related to a risk Typically, enterprise risk, I would say, not only related to IT, but it could also be related to business processes, which can be used in reporting, and that's where IT should play a bigger role. And it is good to. It would be really, I think, good if a CIO reports that, and a CIO can also bring that up as an IT, I would say, initiative, and take some credit for it.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So I think, Pankaj, the other, this is like an associated point to which I'm like, getting as we are discussing. See, whatever you put out there in a report, which is purely outside of IT, whether it is business value, whether it is risk and all that, right? Somewhere, if it is not core IT, there are other people who would have either a point of view about it or they would have a responsibility for it. Like, for example, your anything related to risk, either your audit or the risk function in every company will have a buy-in on it, will have an accountability for it. So if you are not taking those into account, this kind of report may actually do some damage to you rather than help you. Okay, so so my so my suggestion would be that we have to have a collaborative agenda. So even though it may be an IT report, right? We should be working with the other business functions to create a shared agenda that, hey, this is what I'm going to report. Okay, and are you okay with it? And sometimes this may tell people that, hey, what, okay, if I don't work on it, if this is not closed by the end of next month, then you report it. Okay, so they'll buy some time from you. If you're, let's say, reporting that we are not realizing the business value. तो फिर यार दो चीज तो बचा हुआ है, ठीक है, चल पंकज रुक जा, मैं करता हूँ अभी. Or on a different note, let's say this risk thing. Tell your risk people that, hey, these are the IT risks I'm like going to include in my monthly IT report. It may sometimes help them actually. They may tell you that, yeah, we'll support you. Put it out there. We are struggling with the same issues probably. Yeah. And here is a point from Rajiv Pankaj. Maybe you want to comment on it. He says one thought is that Pankaj could look to putting a change dashboard and put the question to senior management on what they would want to see on this as a long-term IT transformation.
Right. I think that is also a good thought, and which will all this would actually help IT in getting the buy-in for the change uh, from the businesses. And once we put about any a change dashboard about typically the enterprise level changes. Uh,
Yeah.
Typically normally it will help us get the right kind of buy-in. So when you are discussing at the senior most level, if you get a yes to your changes, you are secured, and then you can confidently go and uh, make that change. And that is where I think this can help really immensely. uh, this and on your earlier point, typically when you were saying about it should be with business buy-in, and we should report, because that report will actually help us fast track the projects, and that is something which that report can be used to ensure that those projects are fast tracked. And once the agreement between business function and IT is there, then it should go inside, and that will help IT complete those projects.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, sometimes you can use, see, whatever we are doing, I think we need to be clear about it in terms of what is the outcome we want. I mean, are we doing a report for just the purpose of the report, or is there a message that we want to give? So, Pankaj, if you remember, we used to have a pressure, so there was an enterprise-wide sort of, you can say, ban, maybe a bad word, but like enterprise-wide restriction on hiring, right? Employees. And therefore, there was a expectation that the IT cost will reduce. And what people were doing is that they were replacing full-time employees with contractors. And we still have to give these, desktops and laptops to contractors. So what will happen is that our cost would not come down. Right now, our SAP licenses wouldn't come down. I mean, our Microsoft licenses won't come down. And if you remember, Pankaj, in our dashboard, we used to show a graph of growth in end user machines, right?
End user machines.
So whether I think it was desktops and laptops, it was SAP licenses, CRM licenses, and that was actually to give a picture to the management that listen, some of your reporting methods, some of your reporting metrics coming from other departments, they may not always be consonant with what is coming out of IT, because IT some many a times has to go beyond your functional level metrics of other departments. Like for example, HR was reporting full-time employees, but IT is supporting not only full-time employees but contractors and other people. And I think once we started showing that, we were able to actually influence the policy that listen, as HR, you cannot report a number of employees and then hold IT to that number. You also have to measure that overall number of whoever is contributing, whether it's a contractor or an employee. And we should be talking together on that number when it comes to the end user costs, right? But great to see you back, Pankaj. I'm also laughing because we haven't really spoken afterwards much. I mean, we have spoken, but we haven't really had a video chat like this, which we are having now. But you know what? Whatever is the opportunity, let's make the best use of it. So
Definitely. Thank you.
thanks, Pankaj, for coming online,
Thank you.
and thanks for joining us. Good discussion
Thank you.
on
Thank you, sir.
what CIU should report to the rest of the management. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Goodbye.
Bye for now, Pankaj. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, so that was a good discussion with Pankaj on what should IT be reporting. Okay. Now Anil asks a question: while implementing SAP, is it necessary to push all the smaller systems as well in SAP, which are complex and grown over a long period, or stay within the existing system and plug in with SAP? What is your advice and thoughts? Anil, great question. I would simply do a function-wise mapping, and I would say that, hey, what are those function points where which are overlapping between SAP and my current system? Okay. Now, if what my current system is doing is core to SAP, let's say any kind of finance processes, you should have in your SAP. There shouldn't be a finance process that should be outside of SAP. Finance, costing, production planning, supply chain, the core enterprise resource planning, as ERP is called. Those functions have to be there. Uh, Now, the fact that they are complex and grown over a long period doesn't mean that you just leave them and just plug and play, because you're going to be creating more mess. Okay, so it's sometimes better to take this opportunity of an ERP implementation to clean up your place, to remove some of these you know your what do you call custom complexities. It is, this is how it happens here kind of processes. Okay. um, Now, I would generally say that you go with the experts or develop your own expertise in understanding what to keep out of, what to keep inside ERP, what to keep outside of ERP. Now, typically, I would like to give you a thought process around the around the base layer framework, which is the core data management, which is, they call it as a system of records, the systems of differentiation and systems of innovation. So you have to see any system of records should fold back into your ERP, okay, or SAP. Any systems of differentiation, anything that is helping you differentiate with other players out there in the market, anything that has a very strong play in giving you an edge over the competition or giving you an edge in, keep it as it is. you need not fold it into SAP, because then you will basically lose all that innovation cycle that you have gone through. And any systems of innovation, something which only you are doing, something which others may want to copy from you, I think it will not be a wise thing to try to fold that back into your SAP. Okay, so look at it from, is it just management of data and crunching of data? Is it giving me an edge in the industry? Is it helping me create a certain, cutting edge in a certain process, whether it's a customer management process, or whether it's a supply chain or a transport, or let's say your factory management, or your managing of machines, etc., etc. um, as long as it does that, and as long as it is a system which is innovative enough, don't try to change it. I hope that answers your question, Anil. Send me a ping if it doesn't. Okay, now let us have a fun end to this chat. Okay, so we have somebody called Newtober. Newtuber. I don't know how you spell YouTuber, but let me can call you as Newtuber. Okay. So Newtuber asks a question that in 4 days I have a government exam of 8th grade and the syllabus is not covered yet. What should I do now? Should I practice some sample papers or concept of total 8th subject? Okay. Okay. So first of all, Newtuber, if I think you should have thought about this question long back. You should have prepared better. But you know what? Let's not question the past. Let's not go to the past. Let us look to the future. So you have 4 days, and you are in 8th grade. You have probably 8 subjects. I don't know how many subjects you have. But one way to think about it is look at what are your best, topics. Um, and you don't really need to do much on them. They are your strong points. Now you look at your not so strong topics, and find somebody who can help you clarify those concepts. You should practice some sample papers and get them checked with somebody. Don't just do sample papers, get them checked with somebody and identify wherever you've gone wrong, and try to understand where you went wrong and why you went wrong. Okay. So, in any situation, we have to make the most out of the situation. You don't have to stress about it. Just try to do your best. It is only 8th. I think the more important classes will be 10th and 12th. And just make sure that, you don't get into the situation of a stress in 10th or 12th. Okay. Eventually, these marks that you get in 8th, so all the people that you see here, accomplished people, I don't think anyone would remember their 8th or 10th or 12th marks. It is not so much of what you score in these exams as much as how you learn and how you improve yourself, in life, and how you take help from others. Okay, so do take help from somebody, and the most important thing is don't get stressed out. Stress doesn't help you. Hard work will help you. So work hard. Have confidence on yourself and don't take much stress. Okay. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the hour. We are 4 minutes over. I still have some backlog questions, which I will keep for my next, surprise AMA. As and when one of my guests says, "Sorry, Jagdish, not this week." But till then, I'll keep bringing you these senior leaders week after week, and with their insights, their case studies, experiences. So next week we have a young leader. Watch out for the announcement. In one ClarITea Chat, I don't want to announce the speaker in the next one because of these surprises that we get. That sometimes they may not be available. And therefore, midweek we announce once we have the confirmation. Okay. So, but next week is going to be very exciting. I'm really excited by the growth journey of this young leader. and I'll see you there. So thank you all for attending this, for engaging it. Thank you, especially Pankaj, for coming live on the session with me. And last but not the least, thanks to all of you who are watching the recording over the weekend. I know it's weekend, so it's not possible for everyone to join this live. And therefore, maybe a special thanks to all of you who have joined live with me. Okay. I'll see you next Saturday, 5 p.m. with my cup of tea. And it's 16th April, so please block your time on your diaries. Till then, bye bye. Have a good weekend. Have a good family time.